Hey everyone, I'm Jen, and I own a veterinary technician relief business.
And I'm Michelle. I own a veterinary technician mobile house call business.
And you are listening to Endless Journeys, the Vet Tech Odyssey podcast. In this podcast, we will be discussing and meeting with credentialed technicians who have created their own path with business ownership within the veterinary space.
Our goal is to help inspire burnt-out vet techs before they leave the industry altogether through our stories and the stories of other vet tech business owners.
Before we jump into today's episode, we want to give a huge thank you to one of our sponsors, Action Vet Tech Services, or AVTS.
AVTS is an RVT-owned staffing, training, and consulting agency founded by Jacqueline Phillips RVT, based out of North Carolina with a nationwide reach supporting credentialed veterinary technicians.
What we really love about AVTS is that it was built for technicians. Their entire mission is focused on creating empowering and autonomous career paths for credentialed technicians, so RVTs, CVTs, LVTs, and even VTS specialists.
Their team includes about 30 to 45 professionals with a huge range of specialties, and many of them have been with AVTS for more than 3 years. It's a group that's really focused on leadership, education, supporting each other.
AVTS offers flexible relief staffing for clinics and hospitals, RACE-approved continuing education, customized in-house labs and trainings, and consulting for practices looking to improve workflow, compliance, and practice management.
They also create real pathways for technicians to grow into leadership roles, teaching opportunities, and long-term career development, which is something we talk about a lot on this show.
What really makes AVTS stand out is their RVT first owner-led model that prioritizes autonomy, professional growth, and building a strong community of credentialed technicians.
So if you're in a clinic looking for skilled veterinary technicians or a technician looking for new opportunities to grow your career,
be sure to check out Action Vet Tech Services and see how they're helping elevate technicians across the veterinary profession. All right, now let's get into our episode for today. Right. Hello. We are here with Ryan Johnson and second time, Katelyn Warford here today. We did a episode special with Katelyn and her business on VetMed Life Coach. And this is our first time on the Endless Journeys podcast that we have Ryan Johnson here today. Hi.
Hey, how you guys doing?
We're doing great. We kind of just wanted to start off the podcast by just introducing these two and even just talking about that we just had a collaboration with Ryan and Katelyn. I'd say like a couple weeks ago, we were invited onto their podcast, which is the ACT podcast, which stands for Athletic Conceptual Training LLC. That is Ryan's business. And Katelyn is now his co-host on that podcast. And that's how we were introduced.
Yep. Yeah, we're really excited to have this conversation with you guys and to be able to talk through all these things and introduce our collaboration to all of your followers.
Yeah. So they had me and Michelle on their podcast, and that initial podcast, we basically just talked about entrepreneurship and just discussing, maybe why you would want to go in that direction as a veterinary technician, veterinary assistant, veterinary professional in general. So I really wanted to take the time to really get to know Ryan and what his business is really about, what it's focused on. So can we start with that, Ryan?
Sure.
Of just telling us a little bit more about your business?
Yeah, thank you. So, Endless Journey followers, how are you guys doing today? My name is Ryan Johnson. I am the founder of Athletic Conceptual Training. It is a media and consulting platform built at the intersection of sports performance principles and veterinary leadership. Through ACT podcast and the Culture Clinic, we produce executive level conversations that highlight leadership, culture, and retention and representation in veterinary medicine. Beyond media, we work directly with hospitals to strengthen communication systems, leadership alignment, and long term growth strategies. My focus is helping veterinary teams move from reactive survival to intentional leadership. Medicine is rarely the issue, structure, alignment, and clarity are. One more time, structure, alignment, and clarity often are. Okay. Um, yeah, so that's a little bit about quick snippet about what we do. Katelyn has been gracious enough to partner with the Act podcast and Act business to provide that life coaching segment and allows us to go into hospitals and work on communication from the top to the bottom. And why I start from the top intentionally is because what we're seeing is a lot of culture problems within the hospital don't start from the bottom up. They start from the top down. What is that communication? What is that organization looking like from owner to hospital manager, from hospital manager to leadership, from leadership then down on to support staff, right? So that's where we start. And Katelyn does a great job at really, especially with her experience in the vet field, specifically, we can touch on the mindset. Hospital owners, is it time to back off? Right? You have leadership in place for a reason.
Right.
Allow them to lead. Are you setting them up with the right tools so that you can focus on growth and your hospital doesn't have to run with you in hospital 24/7? That is a recipe for burnout, stress, and frustration. The other thing is with representation, we are training the minds of the future of vet med through sports. I am also a basketball coach, and a lot of the kids who are not going to be superstars, which there are a lot of them, those are future veterinary professionals, right? And who would have otherwise not been introduced to our wonderful field, right? We need to do a better job at reaching these folks from a younger age and not just focusing on DVMs coming right out of vet school, right? I think if we are able to build that pipeline, we'd see a lot more youth in general searching more options, and we have a lot more availability, continuity, and representation, whether that's from race to all the way to, diversity in the job levels that we have in hospital. So that's what I tackle. And yeah, I'm really happy to be here and have this continued conversation. Michelle and Jennifer, your podcast and your platform has been so amazing at tackling these tough topics and having these conversations that are meaningful and really progressing the field forward. So I really am humbled and appreciative of your time.
Yeah. And I will just say straight up from, being on it here before, like giving people the platform of others, especially techs and assistants, that don't necessarily, that aren't DVMs, the hope of just because you don't have a DVM title or aren't a vet doesn't mean you can't own your own business and you can't take a chance on yourself. And it's huge. And a lot of us believe clinic setting is the only way in vet med, and it's not. And it's very important. And I've had many people that I've talked to that not only have come to me from you guys, but also they know who you are. And they're like, I get so much from their info and their podcast. So just, you're doing great things.
Oh my gosh. That means so much. Oh my gosh, that makes me like tear up a little bit.
I could see Jen and we're both getting red and pink in the face.
No, that means so much to us, and that's exactly why we're doing what we're doing, and obviously that's exactly what you guys are doing, what you're doing, and just the fact that we have met each other and we are collaborating and doing this. I mean, it can only get better, right? With the more people that you have and more like-minded people, that's exactly how we're going to be able to grow this, and we're going to be able to do better in veterinary medicine. And then I just wanted to say, Ryan, too, I absolutely love the fact that you mix in the athletics in with veterinary medicine because not enough people do that. I know that when I first introduced you even to close friends of mine, showing them your podcast and your platform, they were like, "Oh, like athletics, how does that mix in with vet med?" And I was like, "I know that you would think that that'd be confusing, right? But it's really not because it's what we should be doing because it's also just showing that there should be more of a focus outside of veterinary medicine. You have to find something that you're passionate about outside of animals, outside of veterinary medicine, that will keep your mind fresh, keep your body fresh, and keep it, active. Because we need those are all important things that that can be implemented in veterinary medicine as well.
Yeah,
So I love it.
thank you. I mean, we were just having a conversation, Kayla and I, with a veterinary leader, and they were saying the same thing. They said that actually, the when you look at a lot of the leaders in the field and you ask them their background, sports is in there. And that
Yeah.
discipline has helped them
Good.
with their discipline and their growth and their drive and determination and community
Yeah.
aspect of things. A really quick story. One of the reasons why I started coaching was my stepson. When I first met him, he was, kind of dabbling in sports and things like that. I've always been in sports, and I believe in it um, wholeheartedly. And I like sports because um, not all of us are academically focused in the beginning, and sometimes it takes something else for us to be able to like then hone in on that those skills. So for me, sports did that for me, and he was the same. And he was kind of a nervous guy, and he needed some coaxing before he would jump into social activities and groups and things like that. And one of the things that I picked up, and I met him when he was 5, one of the things that I looked ahead for from my own experience was like, listen, we're going to commit ourselves to this sport. And it happened to be basketball, which for me, that was great. But it happened to be basketball. But that helps in so many different levels because we're talking about going into middle school and high school where there's social pressure, where there's decision making, where you're trying to figure out who you are, what you want to do, and where you're going to be. It's easy to slip into the misfit category and not have a focus. But when you come in with a sports background, it doesn't matter what sport it is, you automatically come in with kids who are also pushing towards something, who are driven, who can help keep you accountable, who you've been through the ups and downs of winning, losing, challenging your mindset, failure, overcoming tough battles. You come in with that already mindset in a group of kids who've been through that. And it teaches you how to be an individual in a group and not be afraid to commit to whatever it is that you want to commit, stand up for yourself, be confident, and just really be your fullest self. I wanted that for him and every kid that I've encountered since then. And that's where a lot of my leadership style in veterinary medicine comes from, is wanting to get the best out of each individual person. I want you, when you leave me, is not to feel down about yourself, not to feel like you can't, but to feel like you can, and then know that you can, and then be able to tap into that mindset, that framework, to even when you're feeling down, to say, wait a minute, I've been here before. L- Let me remember who I am. And that, like, I can't not say how many lives I've been able to affect just off of that mindset alone. And it's something that is an intangible, a superpower that I feel like I possess at that point because
Say
of
I'm
sports.
one of those
Yeah.
people that has impacted
Yeah.
me. So just saying.
Anyway.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
no, you're right. You three know, especially Jen knows, I'm not an athletic person. Jen's actually the very athletic. She's mountain hiking and she's physically fit. I'm pretty lazy. But about 10 years, well, not always lazy though. I am now. But I used to do MMA, concentration boxing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was
Damn,
never in a
okay.
ring, but I trained with the actual guys who were fighting. And we were a team. And when I say team, I mean those guys had my back. And I was just their little cheerleader and I tried my hardest. But you're right, my coach, True. I mean, the person I was when I walked into that gym versus the person who I was, I'd say about 3.5 years later when I moved out of the area and I walked out of that gym for the last time, my confidence. Like I used to walk around like shrug down like this, but I would walk out like who wants to try me essentially was
Come at
my
me.
attitude. But not I mean I wasn't picking fights with sidewalks,
No,
but
Right.
I had that backbone and it was from him. So being a coach, like just reflecting back on that time, it's so meaningful to do that because I still think of him like he's still a part of me, my coach. He's still a part of me somewhere in there. And you're always going to be that for people somewhere in there. You're always going to be their coach, no matter
hmm
what.
Yeah.
And I really love that you said that because one of the things that we don't pay attention to in veterinary medicine as leaders is that we always remember our best coaches, our best teachers, and things like that from when we were younger. Why does that have to stop?
Right.
Right.
100%.
Because we're not
100%.
investing the time into actually being good for those people.
Right.
We're too busy trying to meet a revenue goal instead of affecting the lives that will then in turn affect our revenue goal even greater than we could ever think because we get a loyal, capable, confident individual.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Yep.
not only that, like going in with that mindset, you not only then it does make your business even better when you have that as your focus, but then we're there for the animals in the way we wanted to be and why we started in the first place. Not only that, remembering that the pet parents and the owners are just as important as their animals and having compassion for them and showing up for them in the way that they deserve to as well. So like all of it just and then when they feel great too, the animals and their owners are happy, like that's going to build your business to be huge as well. Like when you go at it from a mindset of I'm doing it for my passion and my why of making just one life different and impacting it, like people are going to notice that. They're going to see that and they're going
Ladies and gentlemen, sports and veterinary medicine, athletic
Yeah.
conceptual training.
Yeah.
to. Yeah, and I also just want to just say again too, just because it teaches that you can work as a team, you can collaborate as a team, and then you can also lift each other up by building each person's confidence into what they bring to the team and what you couldn't do without them. And so it's the same thing. It's all the same in VetMed. And to what you said, Michelle, as far as your MMA, I will say to anybody out there who doesn't think that, like any type of hobby, whether it's walking, hiking, snowboarding, bodybuilding, basketball, anything like that, when you start doing things like that, the confidence that you build in yourself, I know that when I started, like I was not a confident person at all, and I was always very, very weak. And then I started bodybuilding. And when I started bodybuilding, the transformation of just like my brain chemistry and just like how much more strong I was and the confidence that I built in myself totally changed my work. It changed my entire career. It made me a better technician in so many different ways, and it's not an exaggeration. It's not a lie. I think that it's like that for a lot of people.
yeah, it's because you weren't making it your VetMed your whole identity. You had stuff
Well,
outside of that.
also the other thing I wanted to add to that is, and one of the things that you said, Jennifer, was that it changed the way you felt about yourself. Like we could do all the training in the world, right? We could teach them how to place a catheter. We could teach them how to go in surgery. But if they don't feel confident about them themselves, it's not going to do any good because they're just going to be second guessing themselves.
Right.
And in leadership, I feel like we need to do a better job at not focusing on why these people can't, but focusing on what they can do,
Mm-hmm.
building that muscle
Yes.
so that muscle can then support other muscles' growth. And now we have a very strong individual.
Right.
Like
Yep.
analogy, like that analogy. And then we can pick fights with what did you say, Michelle? Pick fights with the sidewalks.
With the sidewalk.
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, you'll win against the sidewalk sometimes,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I feel like I would. If I'm determined enough, I would. And then also too, like, I feel like also if you're physically athletic, right? It's going to make you more limber in vet med. It's going to
Mhm.
make you be able to restrain. You're
Yeah,
going to be able to
less
have that
sore,
endurance
yeah.
to be on your feet all day. So I mean,
Mhm.
they go hand in hand
Yeah.
physically as well as the mind.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
And so
All right.
both very important. And I wanted to know, so how did you two link up? Because I'm picturing Katelyn was a guest on Ryan's show, and then you guys had chemistry, and then you guys because we knew Katelyn prior, so I'm very curious.
Well, do you want to do it? Or you want me to do it?
I can, because
Okay.
just like what I shared on the last one around, I'll kind of point it out. But Ryan, I mean, he mentioned it. He's cold called me is how we were calling it, where he just messaged me one day like, "Hey, I came across your profile. Love to have you on the podcast. This is what I do, all that." And I was like one of those people initially that Jen, you mentioned you show people the podcast and they're like, "Sports and vet man, what?" And I was like, "Is this real? What is happening?" And I go on it and I'm like, "Oh, there's veterinary interviews. I watched them." I was like, "Hell yeah, that's awesome." And so I was like, "Sure." And it was great, it gave me a platform when I was new in my business and it was scary. And I was like, I'm scared to put myself out there. But he gave me that space and it was so cool. And just we vibed so well, like had similar visions of what we want for vet med, all of that. And then, of course, went on a second time and we just continued to keep in contact throughout the times that we were on the podcast together and all that. But I was one day and just last January where I'm just, as business owners, I'm sure you guys have felt this, where hearing that slump of, can I keep doing this? I don't feel confident. I feel like so low right now. And then I just get this text message from Ryan out of nowhere, like, "Hey, I'm going to WBC and I'm gonna moderate there. If you sign up, like you should sign up. You get in a mission for free and we could go do all these things." And I was like, I can't do that. I'm a mom. I got these things. I got a full-time job, blah, blah, blah. Was making all these excuses. And I'm just like, and he could tell that I wasn't in like the mindset I normally am. And he's like, "Girl, like just try. You try it out, see what happens. And you are capable of anything. Like you got this." And like came at the exact time I needed it of just like waking me up of like, "Kayla, what are you doing? Like you're stewing in it and you've done so much. And you're gonna just let that stop you." And so just him reminding me of that, and then we reconnected from that of then we started talking more about it and me going to WVC and I was able to figure it out. And then he was just like, "Hey, let's do this. What about doing this together?" And I can have him give his side too. But yeah, that was huge for me that he just showed up in the time that I was like, "What?" I didn't realize that I was stuck in my own head.
Yeah. Well, so I like to think I'm pretty intentional about everything that I do. So when I reached out to Caitlin, I like was looking at her business and her business model, and I really liked that it was more grassroots. It told me that she cared about what she was doing and cared about the content that she was putting out there and trying to help people. There's a lot of life coaches out there, but who's actually helping folks. So I initially reached out to her. She said yes. We did the podcast, and I just kind of started. Honestly, I just started picking her brain a lot, because I mean, as we all know, as owners, who we partner with is really important, and who we decide to tie ourselves to. So from like that first interview, I was already knowing I was
Yeah, no,
coming
I
back.
remember.
But it was just a matter of time, right? Timing is everything. And the time ended up coming, and she ended up saying yes to the partnership. I was also in a place where I felt like the podcast had grown, but it was really important for me to branch out and have help. And if I really wanted to have the change and effect that I wanted to, I couldn't do it by myself. And that part I really like putting that out there, because and I think we need to do a bit better job as saying, "I need help." And me doing that changed the scope of the business because it grew. And why? I think it's because it's better representation. We have the male-female dynamic. We have the life coach dynamic. We have sports. We have veterinary medicine. We have so many different things in one, and means we're catering to a bigger audience, right? We're catering to more people. People are able to see themselves in these things and to relate and to be able to attach themselves to the message that we're trying to portray. And that's the biggest thing that we're trying to do. We're trying to reach lives and souls, right? The platform was originally built to highlight veterinary assistants, technicians, CSRs, DVMs, veterinary professionals, because we learned that each and every one of them, each and every one of us, have a second gig. Vet med isn't just the one thing that we're doing, and more so than not. So I just started. Everybody needed a platform to highlight themselves on, to say, "This is what I do." Are there other people out there? And that's the work that I'm doing, is just spreading awareness. And with Katelyn, it just amplified it now, because now we're able to spread awareness and spread mental health awareness and actually help hospitals and actually tackle some of the issues that are in vet med, and in a real way. And it's just so meaningful, and I feel so supported by my business partner over there, and I feel like just like fulfilled, that heart feeling that like you have a team. And I think that is so important, because as you go forward in doing this business, and like Katelyn says, you have someone to lean on, and that's important.
It's less scary. It's less scary, yeah, when you know you don't have to just rely on yourself, that you have someone like-minded and has the same vision as you, um, to have as someone to pull you back up, or know that you can rely on them to, when you are having a harder time too. And I'm sure you and Michelle and Jennifer, like Jen, you both have probably done that for you yourselves too. Like, it's just huge being
Yeah,
able to
I
do
was
that.
gonna say, I think that just highlights how overwhelmed we can get as business owners, and how overwhelmed we can get in general in veterinary medicine. I think a lot of us feel very alone sometimes. And I know that I was that way before I even started my business. I felt alone a lot. And I think that I think all of us feel that way in a sense, and we all feel overwhelmed whether we own our own businesses or not. And knowing when to reach out and when to say, okay, yes, first of all, I need help. I need to talk to somebody, or I just need that support. And I know I said it on the podcast before, but when when I was first found out I was pregnant and I was in the first trimester, I leaned on Michelle a lot. And I could say right now that if I was doing this podcast by myself, just me, I would have quit a long time ago, and I would not still be doing it. She, I would not be doing it without her, because she was that person that was like, "You're not gonna quit on me, right? Like, please don't." And I was like, "No, I'm not. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do it." Because when you have somebody too that almost
Hold you
is
accountable.
relying on you a little bit as that business partner, then you also can't let your business partner down. Like, when you're full of integrity, and when you want to work with somebody that's more badass than you're like, I'm just gonna. It motivates you more, because and somebody's relying on you in that sense. So you're way more easily to get to what am I trying to say? To give up on yourself, um, and then not to give up on somebody else as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because then the other person sees your potential, and like what you're doing and what you bring to the table. Like, you two have your dynamics. One half does something, the other half does something different, but you come together, and those dynamics just make something to where you're like, I can't do this without this person, because they're like, it's weird, because I don't think people get it until they're in it with somebody, like being in a partnership, not a coworkership. There's such a
Right.
different dynamic, and it's hard. Like, I've told Alex before, and I've told my friends and my family, the relationship I have with Jen is a relationship like I don't have with anybody else. It's different from my best friend, and it's a partnership where we have 100% trust and faith in each other and accountability for each other as well. Just like with coaching, your teammates, you learn accountability, and you want to
Right.
show up there for that person, not only for yourself,
Right.
but for that person too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, and then, I would add just like once you gain that, it's almost like once you gain that trust and maintaining that and keeping that up is so important,
Yeah.
right? Because, it's one thing to like, okay, I have a partner, but it's one thing to say, I have a partner that I can actually rely on.
Right.
That,
Yes.
like, that takes it to a deeper level. Yeah.
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 I like to call it a kindred spirit. And I always feel like when you first speak to that person, like you automatically get that like, oh my gosh, there's something about this person. And I can't put my finger on it, but you guys have to know what I mean. But I mean, I
Oh,
feel
yeah.
like that's what happened with me and Michelle.
I
So,
think we touched on it too, where you were saying how you guys formed the podcast, but like, right, I will never forget after our first episode together, he's like, I have this vision, we could do this, we could do that. Like, was already like so excited. I was like, I love this vibe, but I'm also so nervous right now because I'm like, I don't know. I just started. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm like, but no, I love the vibe. And I'm like, I have that vision too. I just don't know when it's gonna happen. But no, like we had that moment for sure
right.
of like, there's something.
Yeah.
Thankful she believed in me.
Yeah. No, you two make a great team. It shows, and you guys, and now now you got the podcast. You guys are helping, I feel like helping the industry as a whole with your podcast, getting the message out there. But now you guys are also venturing into the clinic with each other and helping out. So I feel like you're helping outside and inside. And how is it going with working on the inside of the clinics? Like, what is the main goal there? I know we're talking about getting up from the leadership down with communication, emotions, feeling, but what's the overall like big scope of that? And how did that come to fruition as well?
So the mission is to help privately owned practices stay sustainable, right? We are talking about a business that can thrive in this world full of corporate medicine. Now, I don't have any problem with corporate medicine. We're not trying to compete or anything, but we are trying to help some of these there's a lot of privately owned practices that need help and don't have the resources or are afraid to
Yeah.
reach out. Our platform that we've built together and the connections that we made have put us in a unique situation to be able to bring a hospital all the resources that they need to be able to scale from media to hospital management to coaching your team to building SOGs and things like that. We are trying to keep independent private practices independent and private and happy
Mm-hmm.
and happy. And we are excited to potentially close a contract soon, and we're really excited because it'll be our biggest one if everything goes well. But I would say that like the challenge then is more hospitals. Please reach out because we are here and we want to help you. You do not have to be ashamed. We ran into a hospital recently that reached out, but when it all came down to it, they decided not to. But when we look at the numbers and we talk about what revenue is lost by not making change per year versus the money that you put into protecting and growing your firm, it, it's a difference of millions of dollars.
And I want to say too, clinics who are even questioning maybe doing something like this, I will say if I worked for a company that invested in something like this, it would open my eyes to how much my clinic actually cared about their staff and really cared about their staff in a way of saying, we care so much about you that we want to invest our entire team into this. And we want to make sure that not only are we going to stay in revenue and we are going to, stay open, because I know that that's even just a struggle that a lot of clinics are having now, but also that their staff will be happy as part of it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Caitlin, I was wondering if you don't mind talking a little bit about the life coach thing, because that's an important piece, a, a part of this, and
Yeah.
yeah,
So I mean, part of my vision, and of course, Ryan has a hospital manager background and kind of knows a lot of the admin side and all of that, which I don't know. I don't know any of that stuff. So of course, he's expert on that. But a lot of it, not only does the communication with support staff, they don't feel heard and all of that. That's a big thing. But it all starts from the top, right? The leadership, if they can't communicate well together, or even just from the owner down to leadership and who's running, like it all trickles down. And so starting from the top is very important in that aspect of what are our communication skills, how is that like between you guys, and hey, I help provide perspective on, maybe you took this way, but what if, we became curious and asked some questions in that aspect of maybe they meant it this way, or why don't you just ask them and call it the elephant in the room, it's okay, stuff like that, to where they become confident in doing that with each other, to where it can then trickle to doing that with their own support staff, to where maybe they start accepting that, okay, mistakes happen and it's okay to look inside myself and it's okay to admit when I did something wrong, and I'm going to be better. I'm going to do my best self, and, have that hope of like, it's okay, and welcome that, to where then it will encourage those down, where they'll see that the leadership is hearing them out more, giving them more space to share their voice and their concerns. And when you open that, like that just builds a team dynamic and culture that's so strong that the support staff, like they're more of you, more support staff than there are leadership. And if you're not giving them that support in their voice and not letting their voices be heard and giving them the support, like I can even help them getting their what's going on with them too. Like them telling me I'm not in your leadership. I don't have a bias, in that aspect, where maybe they feel safe coming here, and I can present it as well to leadership and talk them through it. Like when you support them and give them that space and show them, like Jen said, you're putting effort in not only trying to better the whole hospital, but giving the support staff, the team, who is your majority, like you're going to retain so many more staff. And when you retain and you're not turning over, like you don't have to pay to get in more employees each time that lasts maybe 2 months because just the culture isn't there and you're not hearing them out. So like there's so much that can be done with communicating and just coaching in that aspect.
Absolutely. Goes hand in hand. You keep your employees happy. You have an open line of communication. You retain them for a lot longer, thus making profit. So, Caitlin, you're bringing in the emotion, and Ryan, you're bringing in the digits, and you guys are coming
Right.
together and figuring this literally from both ends on the hospital now as well. Love that. Yeah. And I agree with Jen. If a hospital, if I'm working for a clinic and they're willing to bring in outsourcing help and they're wanting to bring in professionals that aren't them and admit like, hey, we need to fix something, and they get over their own ego, I guess, and they find the professionals, then the rest of the staff are like, whoa, they're open for this, and this is they care about us. So 100%, yeah.
well, that's where we're seeing the biggest hiccup right now is privately owned hospitals have owners who have built this hospital with a dream that isn't coming to fruition.
Mhm.
And it's really difficult for them to admit that it's not working.
Yeah.
And even more difficult to admit that they might be part of the problem unintentionally.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
when we're making these cold calls and things like that, it's a little bit more difficult for people to get there. But we're here to tell you guys we're here to help. We're here to help, and we're here and we're bringing resources with us, right? Like there's no reason that if we can't find a way to help affect you, why can't we call Michelle and Jennifer?
Yeah. Like,
Right? The power of community is something that we're bringing with us. We're not coming by ourselves. We bring a whole heap of knowledge, experience, talent to help you make. How could you say no to that?
well, and
Right?
it's like you're making more money, but you
I
also
couldn't.
live a life where you are less burnt out. that you feel
Yeah.
more aligned with you. You maybe start putting in the boundaries and stepping back in areas that you were scared to because you weren't delegating things that you should be. And now you can actually live your life and do the things that you wanted to outside of that too. So it's not only just that, like you actually have a long, fulfilling life within vet because you took that chance on yourself in your clinic.
Right. Well, and there's also that difference between owning a business and talking about revenue and talking about numbers, just like you were talking about, Caitlin, where that's Ryan's expertise. And then you have the whole other emotional aspect of it where you have these people who have real lives. And, especially when we're talking about emergency and specialty, we're talking about real trauma that these people see on
Right.
the daily. And then we're talking about clients who are vet bashing and call us horrible things, and it really takes a toll on us emotionally. And I think that's the toughest thing. And that's the aspect that a lot of leaders, they don't know how to deal with that and they don't know how to fix that. And that's why a lot of people are like, we just need to get over that. We need to just focus on the business. But it's like, there's so much more to it than that. And I think that you guys, I remember a long time ago, I sat with one of my best friends and we were like, wouldn't it be so amazing if we had like a vet psychiatrist on like on the staff in every clinic hospital?
And
You
social
know,
work's becoming a big thing now. Like with
yes.
hospitals are starting to hire social workers. Yeah. Which it's
Be-
needed.
because of the trauma. I mean, I don't know how many times I would drive home from work and I would just cry. And then, we talk about the burnout, we talk about all of those things. And I know that we're talking about it more and more, but we talk about it all the time, but we still don't really have a solution for those things. And I think the solution is exactly what you and Ryan are trying to do right now is bring it into the hospitals. Let's bring in these coaches, these psychiatrists, these social workers into the hospitals and talk to our staff. And obviously you're not going to be able to make everybody happy all the time, but we can try and we can try to do things and we can talk to our staff and we can ask our staff, what would make you feel important here? What would be a good working dynamic for you? And then just try to work that with everybody.
I like to play hypotheticals. So I like to pose a hypothetical to you, business owners, and to you, Endless Journey crew. Imagine and you're a hospital owner. You had a really busy day, right? For whatever reason, you lost revenue. You were scheduled for your full 14 to 16 cases. You were anticipating making that $8,000 to $10,000 day, but half of them call off. In addition to that, one of your staff members is bitten by a cat. You have to send them to the hospital. In addition to that, you and your hospital manager aren't seeing eye to eye. In addition to that, you have a claim from a client who's upset. How can one person take on all of that and then not pass that frustration and stress down? So imagine
Yeah.
having a coach come in like Coach Ryan, and then having a coach come in like Caitlin, who can help you scale your hospital, talk about what went wrong in our marketing, what went wrong with your hospital manager and you first, so that communication gets down. You have a conversation, a structured conversation with Caitlin and your hospital manager, and you guys actually get back on the same page. Then you have a conversation with Ryan and you start working on a better structure, and you're starting to recruit for additional help from a DVM, right? So that you can then spread out that workload. Or then you have a structured conversation with Ryan and Caitlin for your support staff. Why did that person get bit? Right?
Yeah.
How are we approaching fear-free tactics? How are we
Yeah.
approaching
Training.
cat handling? How did that appointment get booked without low stress meds? Right?
Yeah.
Then for the client review, you have someone like Ryan and Caitlin to come in and have meaningful conversations with that client and retain those services. And the outcome is ending in revenue. How let's just play the hypothetical game. How much
Yeah.
would that be worth to you?
Yeah. Right.
A lot.
Yeah.
It comes down to, I know for myself, investing in yourself is scary.
And accountability in the clinic itself is scary too.
Right. Like, if you take a risk, and anything that's a what if or anything is scary. But what I've said many times, and I say all the time, is the pain of staying the same, like, worse than the pain of change? What one is worse? And when you think the pain of staying the same every day and you go 6 months from now and you're in the same spot, how are you going to feel? How much longer can you go this way and be like this and feel this way? Jing is worth all the pain in the world just to freaking get out of that spot. And I will say, from someone who's invested t- tens of thousands of dollars in herself at this point, when I have never done that in my life, it was so freaking scary. But the moves I've made, the confidence I've gained, the things that it's done, I know I would not be where I am. At least it would take me a long time to get where I am if I wouldn't have had and invested in myself in that way, and just showed myself that I trusted and believed in me and whatever I was doing. And so, investment's scary, but it's so worth it, from someone who was in that scary spot myself. It's so worth it.
Well, and how many good people have walked out of your clinic because you haven't changed? How many good people have we lost?
You may not know either.
Yep.
You can't guarantee the pulls of every person that's left your clinic. It's probably higher than most people think.
Hmm. Yep.
But what we can do is control the controllables, and that is control our environment,
Hmm.
control your hospital. Are you truly doing the best that you can for your hospital? There's so many and I will talk directly to hospital owners at this point, whether you have a GP practice, whether you have a privately owned practice. Are you truly doing what's best for your clinic, or are you one of those guys or ladies who's just getting by while your staff is suffering?
While you're
What's
suffering too.
right?
Like,
Well, no, not necessarily. There are some people out there who
that's
are
true.
making the revenue, but choose not to invest
It's true.
fully into their hospital because their hospital is purely a revenue maker. How many
It's true.
lives you got? There's hospitals out there that I've seen personally, and I'm in California, so we all know what it takes to work here. I know
Hmm.
there's hospitals out there where we have owners who are making, upwards of, $300,000, and then we talk about take home, outside of hospital revenue costs. They're living in, the nicer parts of the neighborhood, but paying their staff $19 and $20 an hour and not hiring any RVTs because that is too cost effective and we haven't had any issues before. There are hospitals out there today that are doing that.
Yeah. No, and that's not fair to do to your staff. How is it that you can sit in your beautiful house in the beautiful subdivision in the gated community that never gets heartworm disease while your
Mm,
staff is
right.
literally, yeah, your staff is they have to choose between gas and a phone bill, because that's where I was at. I think
Man,
almost all of us have been there before, and it's a terrible feeling, and that's when your staff gets burnt out, is when they might they love their job, they love the clinic, but man, you're not paying them enough, where their phone's getting shut off. You can't call them into work with their phone shut off.
Or they're anonymously posting on a Facebook group saying,
yeah,
"Hey, any side hustles out there so I can make extra money?" I
right,
can't let my clinic know about it because they wouldn't like that. But they're
Mm.
also not paying me enough to be able to survive.
Yeah,
right,
if you don't want them working elsewhere, pay them.
right, and we talked about this on the last podcast, and if the power of collaboration, you cannot make the most amount of money by staying solo, right? Like, there was no way I was gonna not work with Endless Journeys podcast and have you guys come on. Like in a vet field, there's no way I'm turning down this person or that person because of what I'm afraid somebody might do better than me. Well, if you really think about all of this, and I'm going on a tangent here, but this is from a truly collaborative, business minded person. If you collaborate with the right person, and if you're really being strategic, their success can be your success by just being tied to them. But if you don't reach out for those ties, you're never gonna get exposed. And if you're okay with that, you need to look within yourself, because what are you doing? And if it's truly about making the revenue to make change, then you're wasting time and you're wasting money.
Yep.
Sorry.
No,
No,
that's
that's
great.
no.
That's
I love it.
Go
I
for
can
it.
that's
see
the
the
whole point.
fierce. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
that's the whole point of this podcast, and this is what we do. We talk about these real topics, and I go on a lot of tangents, so I need somebody
No,
else to be doing it too, believe
I
me.
love it. Yeah.
But I mean, it's real. It's the truth, and it again, it needs to be talked about more. And and I think the biggest part of what we're trying to do is yes, we're trying to talk about it, but we also want to talk about solutions and how we can fix these things as well. And that's exactly what we're doing. And that's what we're talking about with your guys' businesses. Of obviously this podcast is about business in general and how we can step out of the clinics and we can own our own businesses if we really want to, if that's something that we really want to do. But at the same time, clinics aren't going anywhere. And we don't want them to go anywhere. We love them. That's where we all started. We love animals. We love working with these animals. We love preventative care. I love emergency. And at the end of the day, this is where the foundation is. And so if we can cater and help these clinics flourish to keep their staff happy and to keep up the revenue and to keep clients happy and to have safe patient care, and that's why we started doing it in the first place. So this is why we need to talk about this, and this is why we need people like you guys these clinics need help. There's no doubt about it. And these privately owned clinics definitely need help because they're getting bought out by all of these corporations, which again, we're going to say we're not, not saying we're anti-corporation, but at the same time, like, we want to be able to have those options, right? Of these privately owned clinics and corporate owned clinics. We want to be able to have these options of where we can go. And so this is where it starts,
Well,
is in the
and
clinic.
yeah, and not only that, giving the hope to someone that does own their own private hospital and are getting to the point where they think selling to a corporation is what they have to do.
Which happens a lot.
Yeah. And I have a very dear friend. She's a DVM, and I don't know if any of you guys have been through this, like been through the process with a DVM who's purchasing out a clinic. I have one of my good friends, and there's passion in her eyes. Like, and I've known her for a very long time, and I've watched her over a course of a year and a half now go through the buying process, and it is a lot more than we know because she's told me the steps she's had to go through, the hurdles, the hoops. I didn't know that some of the things you had to do in order to purchase a big practice from another DVM, and the love that she has and the passion. And every time I talk to her, I'm like, "Are you working again?" I'm like, "You're working. It's 8 o'clock. Stop. Hey, I got to talk to you about this rock concert next week." But she's always working on it and the passion. So I know these DVMs, they start at that place where they buy this practice and they want to nurture it. It's their baby. And we need help for these guys because at some point it's going to grow. That's the point. And we're going to need to outsource work in order to make this grow. Like she was even mentioning possibly having a second location at some point. Great. Well, here's where we're going to have people help us from different angles because you can't spread yourself that thin.
Right. Right. Whew.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is great. This was a great conversation. And hopefully we can get you guys on again. And again, I know that we've talked about continuing to collaborate in the future. So we're going to be continuing to have these awesome conversations. I think that, we've had a lot of great conversations with a lot of great people on our podcast so far. But this collaboration, I feel, with these two is really, I think it's gonna go somewhere,
I love it.
and it's gonna go somewhere great. And we're really, really excited. So, and we
Thank you
were,
so much.
yeah, so
Can I
excited to have you
add
guys on.
one last thing? Um,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
and we've been talking about hospital owners and hospitals. One thing I want to speak to is directly to people, and I want everybody to understand that life coaching is, especially for the veterinary profession, in specific. Please reach out if you need help, and even if you don't think you need help, but you want to just refine, go check out Katelyn's platform. Go
Yes.
check out her website. Guys, there is help available. We are in a new era of veterinary medicine where there are resources for us to be the very best version of ourselves. All you have to do is take one step. So please, please do not hesitate. Don't delay. Don't put this off. If you're listening to the podcast, just reach out. That's all I have to say.
And also, Ryan, this is actually something that we usually do. We just, we kind of caught uh, ahead of ourselves and it's this amazing conversation. But one thing that we always like to do with our guests is we do like to ask them who they would want to dedicate this episode to.
I think I want to dedicate this episode to Linity Veterinary Specialist in San Mateo, California. Um, you guys are building. Dr. Kimberly Carlson has been through some ups and downs, but I think, her heart is definitely in the right place, and that hospital is gonna do some great things with the right leadership and resources. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Nice shout out. All right, you guys. Well, I hope you really enjoyed this conversation. I feel like there's more to come. So keep listening and be sure to check out the ACT podcast, which again is the Athletic Conceptual Training podcast. And you will be seeing Katelyn on there now. And then again, we've done an episode with Katelyn already, but just like Ryan said, go ahead and check out her website, VetNed Life Coach. And you'll really get a lot of great resources from the both of them. We
Thank you.
hope you enjoyed this conversation, and we will see y'all later.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to Endless Journeys, the VetTech Odyssey podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and found some valuable insights. If you did, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave us a review and let us know what you think. You can also connect with us on all social media platforms at Endless Journeys, the VetTech Odyssey podcast. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep making a positive impact in the veterinary world. We need you guys. Have a great day.